Hello, it's Caleb Parkin here. I'm the writer in residence on the Beyond Words programme, part of Cheltenham Festivals year-round outreach. In the last video, we were thinking about names, our own names and other names, and having some fun playing with those in writing. And in this film, I'd like us to think about stuff. I think stuff is really interesting, as in objects and material that we have around us. I also think that we can find new perspectives and ways of thinking about things when we work with objects and think about our stuff differently. So that's what we're going to do in the next couple of activities. So come along and I'll show you what I mean. For our warm-up today, I'd like us to think about our taste, what we prefer in the world. I think it's a good thing to develop taste and think about what we enjoy so we can do more of that. To do that, I'd like us to use the model of a Polish poet called Wisława Szymborska, I think I pronounced it right, which is called Possibilities. And I'm going to read you a little bit of that poem so that you get the flavour of it. Possibilities. I prefer movies. I prefer cats. I prefer the oaks along the Warta. I prefer Dickens to Dostoevsky. I prefer myself liking people to myself loving mankind. I prefer keeping a needle and thread on hand, just in case. I prefer the colour green. I prefer not to maintain that reason is to blame for everything. I prefer exceptions. So what I'd like you to do is make a mind map of things that you prefer. And some of the things you might want to think about are, for example, your favourite day of the week or month, your favourite place, a favourite snack, a favourite brand, a favourite band or musician, your favourite food that you love to eat. Make a big mind map of all the things that you prefer, and then do a poem where you start every line, I prefer. And then when you start to put it together, think about putting some really big stuff, like what's the meaning of life for you? You know, I prefer being kind to people or whatever it is, and put that next to something small. So have fun with the order that you put those things in. So pause now and go off and give that a go. For our main activity today, I'd like us to focus on one object and then give it lots of attention. I'm going to talk you through a process of doing that. This is from a poet called Paul Matthews, who takes this approach to working with things. So I'd like you to find an object. It could be something that you see every day and don't pay much attention to. If you're at home, just something that's around. I'm going to choose this white watering can for our plants. There's one up there. If you're at school, you could choose something from the classroom or something you carry around with you every day, like an item of stationery, a bag, a pencil case. It can be anything. The first thing I'd like you to do is to describe it as an it. So with this, I'm going to be really factual and scientific, and I'm going to say it's white plastic. It's about 35 centimetres in length. It appears to have been moulded. There's a central seam on it. It contains around 500 millilitres of water, that kind of thing. So imagine that you're an alien scientist describing your object, and it's just the facts at this point. So that's the first thing. Spend a few minutes doing that. You can pause if you want to. The second thing is that I'd like you to address your object as a you and spend about 5 minutes asking it questions like you're interviewing your object. Lots of writers have done this. Margaret Atwood, in her poem 3 Desk Objects, sort of writes to a typewriter and a couple of other things on her office desk. Pablo Neruda actually wrote a whole book called Odes to Common Things, which I've got here. I'm just going to read you a little bit of his poem, Ode to a Bar of Soap. What is it that you bring to my nose so early every day, bar of soap, before I climb into my morning bath and go into the streets among men weighed down with goods? So he's addressing the bar of soap, particularly its smell that he's really interested in. Okay, so write to your object as a you and spend at least 5 minutes doing that. Set a timer if you'd like to. The last thing I'd ask you to do, if you want to, and you've gotten on all right with those other activities, is to respond from your thing as an I. You've got lots of questions, hopefully, from when you wrote to it as a you. So I'd like you to imagine that you are that thing and then write back to yourself. Ask yourself lots of questions. In Lines on Roger Hilton's Watch by W.S. Graham, he first addresses the watch and then the watch responds to him, part of which the watch says, "I am only a watch, and pray time hastes away. I think I am running down." And in that poem, he gets to some really big themes about relationships and love and death and life. So don't underestimate how profound writing about things can be. I hope you enjoy this, and I'll be back in a second with your takeaway activity this week. For the takeaway task this week, I've come to my stairway gallery that we have here with a load of artworks, because next time I'd like us to think about writing inspired by artworks and museums. So what I'd like you to do is this. I'd like you to go and find an object, anything you like around the house. It can be a very ordinary thing. And for example, if I used Barney's rope toy here, my dog that you met last time, I'm going to write a gallery description of this object. So the things you'll need to write are the artist, so Barney, the nationality and year, so British 2018 to 20, the materials, rope, frayed, tied each end. And then I'd like you to write a short statement about what the artist was intending. So Barney has been chewing this piece of rope now for 2.5 years to show the fragility of existence, or something like that. Have a look online if you're not sure what to write, because there's loads of examples of museum and gallery exhibition notices. And then I'd like you to write one or as many as you want to for objects around the house. Treat your home as an art gallery, as a museum, and have some fun thinking about things in that way. Next time we're going to think about artworks, as I mentioned. So we'll see you then, and enjoy your writing.